As saffron-robed dawn spread over the world, Zeus, who delights in thunder, called the gods to an assembly on the highest of Olympus's many peaks. He opened it himself, and everyone paid close attention. Listen to me, all you gods and goddesses, so that I can tell you what I feel compelled to say. I am determined to bring this business to a speedy close, and with that end in view I give you my ruling, which no god or goddess must attempt to defy. You must accept it, every one of you. If I find any god taking independent action and going to help the Trojans or Greeks, he shall be thrashed and indecently packed off back to Olympus, or I will seize him and hurl him into the gloom of Tartarus, far, far away, where the deepest of all chasms yawns below the world, where the iron gates are, and the bronze threshold, as far below Hades as the earth is under the skies. That will teach you how far I am the most powerful of all the immortals. Come on, you gods, try me if you like, and find out for yourselves. Tie a golden rope to Olympus, and take the other end of it, all of you, gods and goddesses together. Try as hard as you like. You will never drag Zeus, the High Counselor, down from the skies to the ground. But if I cared to pull in earnest from my end, I could haul the lot of you up here, and the earth and sea as well. Then I would make the rope fast to a spur of Olympus and leave everything to dangle in midair. That is how much stronger I am than gods and men. So he spoke, and was received in complete silence by them all. The bluntness of his words had taken them completely by surprise. Eventually, the goddess grey-eyed Athene spoke. Father of ours, son of Cronus, Lord Supreme, we all know well enough you are invincible, but we are sorry for the Greek spearmen who will be left to their wretched fate, destruction. However, we will refrain from fighting, as you command, and shall concentrate instead on offering helpful advice to the Greeks, so that they will not all come to grief because of your anger. Zeus, who marshals the clouds, smiled and said, Have no fear, Triton-born Athene. Dear child, I was not in earnest and do not mean to be unkind to you. He's got a soft spot for her. With these words, Zeus harnessed to his chariot his 2 swift horses with their hooves of bronze and flowing manes of gold. He dressed himself in gold, picked up his splendid golden whip, mounted his chariot, and lashed the horses with the whip to get them moving. The willing pair flew off midway between the earth and starry sky, and brought him to Gargarus, a peak of Mount Ida, of the many springs, the mother of wild beasts, where he had a precinct and smoking altar. There, the father of men and gods pulled up his horses, freed them from the yoke, and wrapped them in a dense mist. Then he sat down on the heights, exulting in his glory, and looking out over the Trojans' town and Greek ships. Meanwhile, the long-haired Greeks snatched a meal in their huts and then armed, while on the other side, in the town, the Trojans also prepared themselves for battle. There were fewer of them, yet they were still determined to confront the enemy face to face, driven as they were by the need to fight for their wives and children. The gates were all thrown open, and with a great din their whole army, foot soldiers and charioteers, poured out. The armies advanced and met in a single space with a great clash of shields, spears, and bronze-armed warriors. The bossed shields collided, and a great roar went up. The screams of the dying, the jeers of the victors, and the earth ran with blood. Right through the morning, while the blessed light of day grew stronger, volley and counter-volley found their mark, and men kept falling. But when the sun was high in the sky, the Father held out his golden scales, and putting death that lays men low in either pan, on one side for the horse-taming Trojans, on the other for the bronze-armoured Greeks, raised the balance by the middle of the beam. The beam came down on the Greek side, spelling doom for them. Their destiny settled on the bountiful earth, while that of the Trojans went soaring up to the broad sky. Zeus thundered out from Mount Ida and launched a flash of vivid lightning at the Greek troops, who were confounded by it. Terror drained the colour from every man. Then neither Idomeneus nor Agamemnon could bring themselves to hold their ground, nor could the two Ajaxes, attendants of Ares. Gerenian Nestor, guardian of the Greeks, was the only one to delay, not because he wanted to, but because his third horse, the trace horse, was in trouble. Godlike Paris, husband of the lovely-haired Helen, had hit it with an arrow on the top of the crown where the mane starts to grow on a horse's head, a deadly spot. In its agony it reared up, since the point sank into its brain, and writhing round with the arrow in it, the trace horse threw the other horses into confusion. Nestor rushed in with his sword and was slashing at his horse's reins, when Hector's horses came galloping up through the mayhem, with their daring charioteer, Hector himself, behind them. The old man would then and there have lost his life but for the quick eye of Diomedes, master of the battle cry, who saw the danger and shouted loudly to Odysseus for help. "Olympian-born son of Laertes, resourceful Odysseus, where are you off to, melting like a coward into the crowd, your shield slung behind you? If you don't watch out, someone will hit you in the midriff with a spear as you run for it. But stop and help me. Keep this brute off old Nestor." So he spoke, but all-daring, godlike Odysseus did not hear him properly and sped by on his way to the Greeks' hollow ships. Now on his own, Diomedes nonetheless engaged with the front ranks, made a stand in front of Nestor's chariot and spoke winged words. "Venerable sir, these young warriors are proving too much for you. You're exhausted, with all those years to carry too. That attendant of yours is useless, and your horse is too slow. Come, get into this chariot, and you'll see what horses bred by Tros are like, and how quickly they can cover the ground in pursuit or retreat. I took them from Aeneas only the other day, these masters of the rout. Let our attendants take charge of your horses, while you and I drive this pair at the Trojans. Hector will soon know if I too have in my hand a spear raging for blood." So he spoke, and Nestor the Gerenian charioteer complied. So their two powerful attendants, Sthenelus and genial Eurymedon, took charge of Nestor's mares, while Nestor and Diomedes both mounted Diomedes' chariot. Nestor took up the gleaming reins and started the horses with the whip. They were soon within range of Hector, and Diomedes let fly at him as he came charging up. He missed, but instead got Hector's attendant and charioteer, Eniopius. He hit him by the nipple on his chest, with the horse's reins in his hand. He crashed out of the chariot, and his horses shied. Life and spirit left him there. His charioteer's death wrung Hector's heart, but, sorry as he was for his comrade in arms, he left him lying there and went off in search of another daring charioteer. His fast horses were not long without a driver. He soon found daring Archeptolemus, made him get up behind the speedy pair and handed him the reins. Please don't ever say his name again. Irreparable disaster threatened the Trojans now, and they would have been driven into Ilium like lambs into a pen if the father of gods and men had not been alert and acted quickly. With a terrific thunderclap, he launched a dazzling bolt of lightning and guided it to earth in front of Diomedes' horses. There was a dreadful flash of burning sulphur. The horses shied and backed up under the chariot. The gleaming reins dropped from Nestor's hands, and, terrified, he said to Diomedes, "Diomedes, quick, turn the horses round and get out of here. Don't you see you can expect no help from Zeus? He is giving Hector all the glory. for today. Another day our turn will come if he wishes it. However mighty a man may be, he will never deflect the will of Zeus, who is far more powerful." Diomedes, master of the battle cry, replied, "All that, venerable sir, is very true, but it really hurts me to think of Hector standing up and saying to the Trojans, 'Diomedes ran away from me and didn't stop till he reached the ships.' That is how he'll boast, and when he does, may the wide earth swallow me up." Nestor, the Gerenian charioteer, replied, "Son of mighty Tydeus, what are you saying? Hector can call you a coward and weakling to his heart's content, but he won't convince the Trojans are Dardanians, nor those proud shield-bearing Trojans' wives, whose strong husbands you've hurled in the dust." With these words he wheeled the horses round and drove them back in flight across the mayhem. Hector and the Trojans followed them with a tremendous roar and a hail of deadly missiles. Then great Hector of the glittering helmet raised a shout of triumph over Diomedes, just as he said he would. "Diomedes, the Greek charioteers used to honour you with pride of place, the choicest meat and never empty cups. Now they will despise you. I can see you always were a woman. Will you fucking stop using woman as an insult, you assholes? Thousands of years and they've been doing this. Anyway, off with you, crybaby. You won't find me standing aside while you climb our walls or carry off our women in your ships. I'll see you off to Hades first." So he spoke, and Diomedes' heart was torn whether to turn his horses and take Hector head on. 3 times he considered the possibility, and 3 times Zeus, wise in counsel, thundered from Mount Ida as a sign to the Trojans that the battle was turning their way. Hector then called out to the Trojans in a loud voice, "Trojans, Lycians and you Dardanians, that like your fighting hand to hand, be men, my comrades, and call up that fighting spirit of yours. I'm convinced Zeus is in earnest about granting me victory and a great triumph, and disaster for the Greeks, fools that they are, to have gone and made those flimsy, futile walls, which will not resist my onslaught for a moment. As for the ditch they have dug, our horses will jump that with ease. And once I get among the hollow ships, remember the battle cry, fire! I'll send their ships up in flames. The Greeks will panic in the smoke, and I'll slaughter them then and there by their vessels." With these words, Hector called to his horses and spoke to them. "Now you two repay me for the attentions lavished on you by Andromache, daughter of great-hearted Aetion, who always put honey-sweet wheat in front of you first and mixed wine with it for you to drink at your leisure, before she ever served me, her strong husband. After them now at a gallop, and let us capture Nestor's shield, whose fame reaches the sky. Solid gold, they say, hand grips and all. And then tear from Diomedes' shoulders the inlaid body armour Hephaestus made for him. If we could get our hands on those 2 pieces, I'd expect the Greeks to take their swift ships this very night." So he spoke, boasting, and the lady Hera was furious. Shaking her throne and making high Olympus tremble, she addressed the great god Poseidon. "What's going on, powerful earth-shaker? Even you cannot find any pity in your heart for the slaughtered Greeks. Yet at Helice and Aegae, they bring you many pleasing offerings. Once you wished them victory. Now, if we who are on the Greek side made up our minds to keep far thundering Zeus from interfering and to drive back the Trojans, he would feel sorry for himself, sitting all alone there on Mount Ida." Greatly disturbed, the lord of the earthquake replied, "What are you suggesting now, Hera? These are wild words indeed. I certainly have no wish to join the others in a fight against Zeus, who is so much stronger than all of us. While they were talking together in this way, the whole area away from the shops, between the ditch and the wall, was filled with chariots and shield-bearing men penned in by Hector, equal of the swift war-god Ares, now that Zeus had granted him the glory. Indeed, he would have had the ships in flames if the Lady Hera had not put it into Agamemnon's head to take action and rally the Greeks before it was too late. He raced along past the huts and ships, clutching a large purple cloak in his fist, and took his stand on the bulging black hull of Odysseus' ship. This stood in the centre of the line, so that a shout would carry to either end, to the huts of Ajax son of Telamon, or those of Achilles. Both these two had had confidence enough in their own bravery and strength to draw up their ships on the extreme flanks. From this point, Agamemnon sent his voice ringing out to the whole Greek army. "Shame on you, Greeks! Contemptible creatures, admired only for your looks! What's become of those proud claims that we were the finest force on earth? What of the idle boasts you made that time in Lemnos, when you were gorging yourselves on beef and drinking from bowls brimful of wine? You said that in a fight you could each stand up to 200 Trojans. But today, the whole crowd of us is no match for Hector alone, and he, before long, will have the ships going up in flames. Father Zeus, have you ever deluded any mighty leader like this before and robbed him of all his glory? Yet I can say that on my unhappy journey here in my ship, I never overlooked a single one of your fine altars. On every one of them I burnt the fat and thighs of bullocks in my eagerness to sack the Trojan city with its fine walls. Then Zeus, grant me this prayer at least, allow us to escape with our lives if nothing else, and don't let the Trojans overwhelm us like this." So Agamemnon spoke, and the father was moved by his tears. With a nod of his head, he signalled that his army would be saved, not destroyed, and at the same time released an eagle, most effective of prophetic birds, with a fawn in its talons, the offspring of some swift doe. The eagle dropped this fawn by the superb altar of Zeus, where the Greeks used to sacrifice to Zeus, god of omens. And when they realized that the bird came from Zeus, they fell on the Trojans once more, their will to fight renewed. Then, not one of the many Greek charioteers could claim he had raced Diomedes to the ditch and driven out before him to engage the enemy. He was easily the first to kill a helmeted Trojan, Agelaus, who had swung his horses round in flight. As he turned, Diomedes stabbed him with his spear in the middle of the back, between his shoulders, and drove it on through his chest. He crashed from his chariot, and his armour clattered about him. Diomedes was followed by Agamemnon and Menelaus. These by the two Ajaxes, clothed in martial valour, and these again by Idomeneus and his attendant Meriones, equal of the murderous war god Ares, and by Eurypylus. The ninth to come, drawing his curved bow, was Teucer, and he took up his position behind the shield of Ajax son of Telamon. Ajax would move his shield slightly aside. Teucer would then peer about for a target in the crowd and shoot. Then, as the man he hit dropped dead, Teucer, like a child running for shelter to its mother, took cover once again with Ajax, who hid him behind his glittering shield. Who was the first of the Trojans to fall to matchless Teucer? Orsilochus, then Ormenus, and Ophelestes, Dator, and Chromius, and godlike Lycophontes, and Amopaon, Polyaemon's son, and Melanippus. All these in swift succession he brought down to the bountiful earth. Agamemnon, lord of men, was delighted when he saw the havoc Teucer was causing with his mighty bow among the Trojan ranks. He went up to him and spoke his mind. "Teucer, dear friend, son of Telamon, leader of men, carry on like this, and you will save the Greeks and bring glory to your father Telamon, who took you under his roof and reared you, even though you were an illegitimate son. Oh, that's nice, just reminding me he's a bastard. Repay him now with glory, far away as he is. I tell you truly, and I mean it, If Zeus, who drives the storm cloud, and Athene ever let me sack the well-built town of Ilium, I will hand you the first prize of honour after my own, a tripod, or a pair of horses with their chariot, or a woman to share your bed." Matchless Teucer replied and said, "Most glorious Agamemnon, why flog a willing horse? I'm doing all I can without stopping. From the moment we pushed them back towards Ilium, I have been watching for chances to kill the enemy. I have shot 8 long-pointed arrows, and each has found its mark in the flesh of some brave young warrior. But here's a mad dog I cannot hit." He spoke and launched another arrow at Hector, longing to bring him down. He missed, but the arrow landed in the chest of one of Priam's strong sons, handsome Gorgython, whose mother, lovely Castianira, with a figure like a goddess, had come from Aesime to be married to Priam. As a poppy's head tilts to one side, weighed down in the garden by its seeds and the showers of spring, so Gorgython's head, weighed down by his helmet, dropped to one side. Once more, longing to bring him down, Teucer launched an arrow at Hector. He missed him this time too, since Apollo turned the arrow aside. But he did hit Archeptolemus, Hector's daring charioteer, not another one, by the nipple on his chest. Again. They're always aiming for the nipples, these people. As he was charging into battle, he crashed from his chariot, and his swift horses shied. Life and spirit left him there. His charioteer's death wrung Hector's heart again. But sorry as he was for his comrade in arms, he left him there and called on his brother Cebriones, who happened to be near to take the horse's reins. Cebriones heard him and complied. Hector himself leapt to the ground from his shining chariot with a terrible shout, picked up a lump of rock, and made straight for Teucer, whom he had determined to kill. Teucer took a sharp arrow from his quiver and notched it to the string. As he drew the string back, Hector's jagged stone hit him on the shoulder, a vulnerable spot where the collarbone connects the neck and shoulders. The bowstring snapped. His fingers and wrist went numb. He sank to his knees, and the bow dropped from his hand. But Ajax did not disregard his brother's fall. Running up, he stood over Teucer and covered him with his shield. Then 2 of their loyal comrades, Mecisteus and godlike Alastor, lifted him up on their shoulders and carried him off, groaning heavily, to the hollow ships. Olympian Zeus now put fresh heart into the Trojans, and they drove the Greeks right back to their deep ditch. Hector, elated and irresistible, led from the front. As a hound in full cry after a lion or a wild boar snaps at its flank and hindquarters and follows every twist and turn, so Hector pursued the Greeks, killing the hindmost all the time as they ran before him. They turned in panic and ran through the line of the stakes, across the ditch, suffering heavy losses at the hands of the Trojans, and did not stop till they reached the ships. There they halted, calling to one another for help, and every man lifted up his hands and poured out prayers to all the gods. But there was Hector, turning his lovely maned horses this way and that, glaring at them with the eyes of Gorgo, or the murderous war god. Seeing them, the goddess white-armed Hera felt pity and spoke to Athene with winged words. "This is disastrous, daughter of Zeus, who drives the storm cloud. Can't we intervene even at the last minute to prevent the Greeks being killed? Are they going to be left to their wretched fate, destruction, mown down by this one man's onslaught? See what Hector has done to them already, and now there is no stopping him in his mad assault." The goddess, grey-eyed Athene, replied, "Nothing would please me more than to see his mad assault cut short, and him drop dead at Greek hands on his native soil. But my father's in a mad and evil mood himself. Obstinate old wretch that he is, always blocking my plans. He never remembers how often I went to help his son Heracles, when the tasks Eurystheus set him became too much for him. Heracles had only to whimper to the skies, and Zeus would send me speeding down to get him out of trouble. I wish my prophetic heart had warned me of all of this when Eurystheus sent Heracles down to the house of Hades, warden of the gates, to bring the hound of hell back up from the depths of Erebus. Then I would have made sure he never recrossed the torrents of the river Styx. But now Zeus loathes me and is letting Thetis have her way, because she kissed his knees, took his chin in her hand, and begged him to bring honour to Achilles, sacker of towns. Yet the day will come when he will call me his grey-eyed darling once more. In the meantime, however, you get our horses ready while I go into the palace of Zeus, who drives the storm cloud, and arm for war. I want to see whether this son of Priam, Hector of the flashing helmet, will be pleased when we too appear in the lines of battle, or whether it is now the turn of the Trojans to fall dead by the Greek ships and glut the dogs and the birds of prey with their fat and flesh. So she spoke. White-armed Hera complied, and this august goddess, daughter of great Cronus, went off to get ready her horses with their golden headbands. On her father's threshold, Athene, daughter of Zeus who drives the storm cloud, took off the soft embroidered robe she had made and worked with her own hands, replaced it with a tunic, and over that put on the armour of Zeus, who marshals the clouds, in preparation for war's work with all its tears. Then she stepped into the fiery chariot and took up the long, thick, heavy spear with which she breaks the ranks of warriors when she, the Almighty Father's child, is roused to anger. Hera immediately leaned forward to whip on her horses, and of their own accord the gates of Olympus thundered open for them. These are kept by the seasons, the wardens of the broad sky and of Olympus, whose task it is to roll the gates of heavy cloud away from the entrance or roll them back. Through these gates the goddesses directed their horses, spurred on by the whip. When Father Zeus saw them from Mount Ida, he was enraged, and at once told Iris of the golden wings to convey a message to them. Off with you, swift-footed Iris. Make them turn back. Don't let them meet me face to face. It would not be a good idea for them to fight me. But I say bluntly, and I mean it. I will hamstring the swift horses they are driving, hurl them both from their chariot, and smash it to pieces. 10 rolling years will not be enough to heal them of the wounds my thunderbolt will inflict. That will teach my grey-eyed daughter what it means to fight against her father. As for Hera, I am not so much hurt and angered by her. Defying me comes naturally to her. So he spoke, and Iris, quick as the wind, sped off on her mission. From the peaks of Mount Ida she arrived high on Olympus. On its rugged heights she met the two goddesses at the outer gates, stopped them, and delivered Zeus's orders. Where are you hurrying off to? What's the purpose of this mad adventure? The son of Cronus forbids you to assist the Greeks. Hear what he threatens, and he will keep his word. He will hamstring the horses you are driving, hurl you both from your chariot, and smash it to pieces. 10 rolling years will not be enough to heal you of the wounds his thunderbolt will inflict. That will teach you, his grey-eyed daughter, what it means to fight against your father. As for Hera, he is not so much hurt and angered by her. Defying him comes naturally to her. But you have gone too far, you bare-faced bitch. Whoa! I don't think Zeus said that, love. If you really dare to brandish that awe-inspiring spear of yours at Zeus. With these words, swift-footed Iris took her leave. I think she'd been wanting to say that for years. Then Hera spoke to Athene. Oh dear, daughter of Zeus who drives the storm cloud. I've changed my mind. We too will not go to war with Zeus on man's behalf. Let chance settle who is to live or die. Zeus must decide in his own mind between the Trojans and Greeks, as is only right." With these words, she turned their chariot back. The Seasons unyoked their lovely maned horses, tethered them at their ambrosial mangers, and tilted the chariot against the white-plastered courtyard walls. The two goddesses then rejoined the other gods and sat down on golden chairs, thoroughly disgruntled. Meanwhile, Father Zeus left Mount Ida, drove his chariot and horses at speed to Olympus, and arrived at the seat of the gods. The famous earth-shaker Poseidon unyoked his horses, put his chariot on its stand, and covered it with a cloth. Far thundering Zeus himself sat down on his golden throne, and great Olympus shook beneath his feet. Athene and Hera, sitting alone by themselves apart from Zeus, said nothing to him and asked no questions. But he realized what was going on and said, "Athene and Hera, why so disgruntled? You cannot, surely, be worn out by the battle where men win glory, in which you killed so many of those Trojans you hate so intensely. Now, all the gods in Olympus could never turn me from my path. Such is my determination and invincible might. But you two were trembling in every shining limb before you ever saw the battlefield and battle's grim horrors. I tell you bluntly, and I would have seen to it, you would not have returned home in your own chariot to Olympus where the gods live, because my thunderbolt would have wrecked it." So he spoke, and Athene and Hera muttered darkly to each other. They were sitting close together, plotting trouble for the Trojans. Athene held her tongue and said nothing, but glared at Father Zeus, seething with indignation. But Hera could not contain her rage and spoke out. "Dread son of Cronus, what are you suggesting now? We all know well enough you are invincible, but we are sorry for the Greek spearmen, who will be left to their wretched fate, destruction. However, we will refrain from fighting as you command, and shall concentrate instead on offering helpful advice to the Greeks, so that they will not all come to grief because of your anger." Zeus, who marshals the clouds, replied and said, "At dawn tomorrow, if you are interested, ox-eyed Lady Hera, you will witness Zeus behaving even more mightily, destroying much of the Greek army. For I tell you, imperious Hector will give his enemies no rest till swift-footed Achilles rises up again beside the ships on the day when the Greeks, in desperate straits, are fighting at the very sterns of their vessels over the body of the dead Patroclus. That is divinely decreed. As for yourself, your fury leaves me unmoved. For all I care, you can go off to the lowest limits of land and sea and join my old Titan enemies, Iapetus and Cronus, sitting there sunk in the depths of Tartarus, cut off from the pleasures of the beams of Hyperion, the sun, and of the breezes. Get even that far in your wanderings, and your resentment will still leave me unmoved. No one is more of a bitch than you. They don't like each other very much, do they?" So he spoke, and white-armed Hera made no reply. Now the bright lamp of the sun dropped into ocean, drawing black night in its train across the fruitful earth. The Trojans had not wished the day to end, but for the Greeks the welcome dark night came like an answer to their prayers. Glorious Hector withdrew the Trojans from the Greek ships, and summoned a meeting beside the swirling river, in an open space where the ground was clear of bodies. And they got down from their chariots to hear what Hector, dear to Zeus, had to say. He was carrying a spear 5 meters long, the bronze point glittering in front of him, and a gold ring clamped the socket tight to the shaft. Leaning on this spear, he addressed his troops, Trojans, Dardanians, and allies. "Listen to me. I had hoped to destroy the ships and all the Greeks with them, before going home to windswept Ilium. But night intervened. It was that, more than anything, that has saved the Greeks and their ships by the seashore. But now we can only do as night dictates and prepare to eat. Unyoke and feed your lovely maned horses, then quickly go and fetch cattle and fat sheep from the town, and supply yourselves with delicious wine and bread from your houses. Then collect quantities of wood. We must have plenty of fires burning all night long till dawn, and light up the whole sky. We don't want the long-haired Greeks launching out over the broad back of the sea and making a dash for home in spite of the darkness. We certainly mustn't leave them to embark at their leisure. Let's give each of them something to think about at home. An arrow or a sharp spear in the back as they jump on board, to teach them, and others like them, to think twice before bringing war with all its tears on horse-taming Trojans. In Ilium itself, our heralds must call out boys and grey-haired old men to camp out all around the town on the walls that the gods built us, while our womenfolk keep a big fire burning in every home. In addition, regular guards must be mounted so that no enemy raiding party can steal into the town while the troops are away. Those, great-hearted Trojans, are my orders. Let them be carried out. So much, then, for the needs of the moment. As for tomorrow, I will say this to you. I pray in good hope to Zeus and all the other gods that I shall be able to drive away these doomed dogs, whom the demons of death brought here in their black ships. During the night, we must keep guard on our position, but at the first light of dawn we will arm and unleash the dogs of war by their hollow ships. Then I shall see whether mighty Diomedes, son of Tydeus, can drive me back from the ships to Ilium's walls, or whether I shall bring him down with my spear and carry off his blood-stained arms. He will learn in the morning whether he has it in him to stand up to my spear. More likely, as tomorrow's sun goes up, he will lie there in the front line, run through, with many of his contingent dead around him. If only I could be as certain of immortality and eternal youth, and being honoured as Athene or Apollo are honoured, as I am certain this day will prove disastrous to the Greeks. So Hector spoke, and the Trojans shouted approval. They freed their sweating horses from the yokes and tethered them with straps, each man by his own chariot. They went quickly and fetched cattle and fat sheep from the town, supplied themselves with delicious wine and bread from their houses, and collected quantities of wood. Soon the breeze was taking the smell of sacrifice up to the skies. So all night long, buoyed up with hopes, they sat along the lines of battle, and many fires burned, as the stars in the sky stand out in all their splendour around the bright moon, when the upper air is still, when every lookout place, headland and mountain ravine stands out, and infinite upper air floods down from the skies, when every star is visible, and the shepherd rejoices in his heart. So many were the fires lit by the Trojans that could be seen in front of Ilium between the streams of Scamander and the Greek ships. There were thousands of fires burning on the plain, and round each one sat 50 men in the light of its blaze, while horses stood beside their chariots, munching white barley and rye, and awaiting dawn on her golden throne.